In the merry month of June, from me home I started, left the girls a truth, so nearly broken hearted, saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, drank a pint of beer, me grief and tears is smothered enough. I suppose the song tells a kind of classic Irish emigration story. This young fella from Tuam in County Galway. It's odd, it's not a Dublin character. He's a Galway character and he's on his way to Liverpool.
This is a song that speaks to people. It is a journey that many Irishmen would have been taking at that time. And they didn't want to make it all bucolic and sentimental. There is a sense of reality of what you're going to come up against, but yet you can make it through it.
Well, one of the interesting things about the Rocky Road to Dublin is the context that you see it in, because of course there's thousands and thousands of very sad emigration songs. And, you know, when you read a bit about Irish history, you can understand why. But I suppose you can also wonder if you've ever been an emigrant yourself. Was nobody ever a bit happy to be going? You know, just to get away from hunger and dispossession and all of that. And I think the Rocky Road to Dublin is quite kind of refreshing in that way. You feel that he's happy enough to be on that rocky road and isn't necessarily looking back over his shoulder at the glory days of being young in Tuam.
The history of the Rocky Road to Dublin has a very kind of parallel tradition to other pieces of music and song. In 1841, we find a publication of it as a slipjig in The Citizen. There were other publications of it in the 19th century. But at the end of the 19th century, we see that lyrics have been given to this music for an English music hall. Now, this is a change in the way people are engaging with entertainment. There's more disposable income, people are going out, but they need music and they need songs. So the Rocky Road to Dublin is of this genre.
In Mullingar that night I rested limbs so weary, started by daylight next morning bright and airy.
Well, the Rocky Road to Dublin was much loved by James Joyce. It features in chapter 2 of Ulysses, and it is alluded to in Finnegan's Wake. And I think it's interesting, the history of the song. You know, it is the lyrics we know were written by a man from Galway called Gavin, I think D.K. Gavin. But it was written as a music hall song for a great music hall star, Harry Clifton, who we know played in Dublin several times in what was then Dan Lowry's music hall, now the Olympia Theatre. So it's entirely possible that Joyce would have been there on one of those nights to hear the song. Joyce loved that whole musical world of drag artists and conjurers and comedians and trapeze people. And I think he would have loved the fact that the song really is difficult. It is a bit of a high wire act in itself.
In the merry month of June, from me home I started, left the girls of Tuam, nearly broken hearted, saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, drank a pint of beer, me grief and tears is smothered enough to reap the corn.
When we think of folk songs, I suppose the ballad revival of the 1950s and 60s, there was a sense of seeking what was old, what was traditional. And again, this word I really dislike using, but authentic.
In Mullingar that night I rested limbs so weary, started by daylight, me spirits blithe and airy, took a drop of the pure to keep me heart from sinking. That's the Paddy's cure whenever he's on for drink.
So now we see that the Clancy brothers with Tommy Macomb and the Dubliners, at the time of the revival in the 60s, they need music. And they turn to Colm O'Loughlin's book, and of course there's the Rocky Road to Dublin. And you read the lyrics and the story takes you. And we see in the same year, both the Dubliners and Tommy Macomb and the Clancy brothers record this song. And it took hold.
I think one of the clever and witty things about the song is that it has a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. You know, the bit where he's singing about left the girls in Tuam nearly broken-hearted. I just wonder, might the girls of Tuam be quite happy to see the back of him.
Dublin's a brand new pair of brogues, rattling o'er the bogs, frightening all the dogs.
I particularly love the lines early on in the song where he's talking about travelling over the bogs and frightening all the dogs, and it's just so irreverent and wild.
When he's getting slagged off down by the Liverpool fellas and he gets out the Shillelagh and the Galway fellas all pile in and there's a big mill, you know. It's just great imagery. It's brilliant.
The song is full of cleverness and wit and charm. It's famously a real performance. It's a very difficult song to sing. You're 26 words into it before you get to take a breath. So I think it's kind of the musical equivalent of a tongue twister, and that's part of its charm too.
Down the rocky road, all the way to Dublin,
Yeah, it's a slip jig time in 9/8, which is a queer old rhythm. I think it's unique to Ireland. It's kind of indigenous rhythm, you know. Makes the song so kind of stand out, I think, you know. There's very few songs like it, you know, very few songs like it. And it just stands out as, with the speed the lyrics are coming at you and the story, the great story and the imagery. It's cinematic, you know, it's epic.
In Dublin next to ride, they thought it'd be a pity to be so soon to fly the view of that fine city, so then we took a stroll, all among the quality bundle it was stole.
It's very, very percussive. It's full of little literary tricks. It's a beautiful piece of writing. It's full of alliteration and assonance and chiming and half rhymes. So it's a very, very clever piece of rhythmic writing. Designed for the music hall, but presenting itself in the disguise of a traditional Irish song. It's brilliant, really.
From there I got the wavy spirit of never failing down the Dundee Quay, as the ship was sailing, Captain.
Sing Rocky Road, you have to. I just think of it like a set of villain pipes, you know, the stomach. I just push it out and fill it up, you know, pushing it out, and you can't get really high by the end of it because of the lack of oxygen to the brain, you know. You're sort of flying after it, you know.
You know, even like just thinking about the song, I already feel my heart like starting to race. I'm quite a hyperactive person. It's so like galvanizing, like the tune of it alone, the music. It's just really hype. Like it's a rhythm and a sound that is uniquely Irish, and it's just so exciting and like enlivening. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. I think a lot of songs can work at different paces, but it changes our interpretation of it and it changes our listening experience of it.
The boys of Liverpool, when we safely landed, called myself a fool. I could no longer stand it, blood began to boil.
I think it's a very touching thing in terms of how Irish people and the Irish diaspora have come to take ownership of this song. The Rocky Road to Dublin has changed and is changing still and will always continue to evolve as new generations of people come to love it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hump the hare and turn her down the Rocky Road.
I suppose with folk songs and the sing songs that I remember that are still happening, and we think it's our duty to pass them on, definitely came from an old cottage and shallow singing, and when there was no money for instruments and people just sang and told stories. I think the sing song now and folk songs that's our link to that past, you know, so we have to keep them alive.